Hello, BWHA38 here, and today we are going to program a Motorola Radius SM-50, and more specifically we are going to out-of-band program this radio. Now anyone who's ever programmed a Motorola Radius line radio probably is aware of the trick of holding the shift key down as you input that out-of-band frequency into the computer, lifting the shift key at the decimal point, and then repressing the shift key to finish out the rest of the frequency. That works great on most Radius radios, but the software that is used to program the SM-50 and its larger cousin, the SM-120, the 16-channel model, the shift key does not work with that. So you have to tweak the software, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. If you're going to be doing any serious radio programming of the Motorola Radius line, it would be good to get yourself an older computer that will run DOS or a very early version of Windows, which is really a DOS-based Windows program such as this one. I'm running Windows 98 on a Pentium 3 800 megahertz laptop. And the software that you're going to need is SM-50-120. Those are the models. And I'm using version 3, which has a June 1996 date. You're also going to need Hex Workshop to modify the software. And I'm using Hex Workshop version 2.54. It's a 32-bit program and can be found fairly easily on the internet by searching for the letters HW, the number 32, the letter V, the number 25, .zip. It's a zip file that you're going to be searching for. HW32 V25. So when you have the software loaded onto your computer, you will see it has several files, and the SM-50 file is actually the executable file that's going to run. That's the software itself. And since it likes DOS, the first thing I would like to do is to make sure that it runs in DOS mode. This is a Windows 98 machine, and I suppose it would work okay in a DOS window. So I'm going to right-click the SM-50 executable and go to Properties. Now the SM-50 Properties dialog box appears, and I'm going to zoom out here so you can see what I'm doing. At the top, I'm going to choose the Program tab, and I'm going to choose the Advanced button, and the Advanced Program Settings dialog box appears. I'm going to select MS-DOS mode. Right here, and click OK. Now what that does is it puts a little shortcut to MS-DOS right in the software folder. So when I go to run the SM-50 software, Windows 98 will actually boot into DOS and run that way. We are now ready to modify the software in order to change the band split in the software. As it stands right now, the software goes from 450 megahertz to 470 megahertz, and I should have said at the onset I'm using a UHF version of the SM-50 radio. So I'm really looking to program somewhere in the 440 range for FM on the ham band. I'd like to tell you that the process I'm going to show you is not my own. It belongs to an article written by Robert W. Meester. His call sign is Whiskey Alpha 1, Mike India Kilo, and he's written several good articles at repeaterbuilder.com. So I want to thank on the onset Robert for his work on this, and basically I'm going to show you Robert's suggestion as to how to modify this software. Okay, we are assuming that you have the software on your computer, and also you have Hex Workshop, an earlier version such as mine 2.54 installed on the computer as well. The file that we are interested in is the SM-50.mdf file. We're going to make modifications to this file, but before we do, it's always good to back up this file and to make a copy of it, just in case something goes wrong. The easiest way to do that, of course, is just to right-click the file, choose Copy, and you can actually right-click and paste right back into the same folder, because what will happen is you will get a copy of the file right there. So you have a backup. So going back to the original file, the SM-50 MDF file, we're going to right click on it, and since we've installed the Hex Workshop software, Hex Edit is one of the choices in the pull down menu. So I'm going to select it, and we get something that looks like this, a bunch of numbers. These are all hexadecimal values for different things in the software. According to Robert Meester, we are looking for a string of numbers that indicate the band split for UHF. And I'm going to put that up here where you can see it. He suggests that we search for a string of numbers that looks like 94, 11, 5C, 12. He states that this string of numbers will be located in 3 places in this file. We need to change those to 30, 11, C0, 12. And you'll notice that you're really not changing the 11s or the 12s. All you're really changing is the 94 to a 30 and the 5C to a C0. One of the things that you need to know about hex editing, though, is that the software has something called a checksum, and that value needs to remain the same. It can't remain the same if we start changing these values. So the first thing we want to do is to run a checksum on the software and write that number down. To do that, we are going to go up to Tools, the Tools pull down, and we're going to choose Generate Checksum. In this software, it is also a shortcut by hitting the F12 key on your keyboard, and we get a Generate Checksum dialog box. Try to put that into view for you. Okay. What do we want to checksum? We want to checksum the entire document, and we want to have the results come up in hex format. So these two things are already selected. If they're not, you need to select them now. and click the Generate button. The value we're interested in is the checksum-16 number, which for me has come up as B8CB. You need to write down that number. And then we can cancel out of this. All right, now that we've written down that checksum value on a piece of paper, we can now go back to the software and search for that string of values using the find function, which is in the edit pull-down menu. Choose find, and you do not need to type the commas. Just type 94. Let me get it in view for you. 11, 5C, 12. And we're going to find next. Okay, so it found the first instance of this string. And so what we want to do is change that 94 to a 30. Notice that it changes it to red. I can type 11 again if I choose. It's not really changing it. The 5C becomes C0 here, and the 12. So there's the first instance of that string. It just so happens that the next string and the next string after that are the other values that we're going to be changing. So I'm just going to go ahead and make those changes now. Okay, now just to make sure that I caught all those strings, I'm going to pull down Edit and choose Find again and see if I can find that again. And of course it tells me that the search string is not found. In other words, we've changed the 3 instances in the software. Remember that I told you that the software won't work if the checksum isn't the same as what it first was when we checked it. And of course, if we do a checksum now, we'll get a different value. What we have to do is go into the software and we can scroll around, perhaps at the very top where the values are really about some of the options and things of the radio. And we're looking to change. Put this back. We're looking to change. We changed it 3 times. We changed the 94 3 times. We changed the 5C 3 times. Now what we need to find is a 30 that we can change to a 94 3 times, and a C0 value that we can change back to a 5C 3 times. The 11s and 12s don't matter because they didn't change. So we're looking for a value of 30 to make into a 94. We have to do that 3 times. And we're looking for a value of C0. We're going to change it to a 5C 3 times. It just so happens that the very first line has a 30 in the first pair, 30 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one and change it to a 94. And then I'm going to look through the software for another value of 30. Now, it's not a pair is the first 2 or the last 2 of the 4 numbers. It cannot be the middle 2 pair. Like here's a 30, but it's in the middle of 4 numbers. That is not a pair. It would have to be either the first 2 digits or the last 2 digits. So I need to keep looking. I've changed it once. I need to change it 2 more times. So I'm looking for a 30. And just so happens that a little bit lower on my screen, I have a pair of 30s in a row. Here's a 30 and here's a 30. So I'm just going to change those to 94, 94. All right, so that takes care of the 30 change. Now I need to find the value C0. Now this might be a little more difficult to find. I may have to do a find on the edit pull down, which I can certainly do. I can do find and just look for C0. And I'm not wanting to change one that I already changed, okay? I need to find one that's not in the string that I changed before. So it'd be best if I went and find next. F3 will also help me find that. Here's a value that I can use. Change it to 5C. F3 again, we'll find another one. There's another one, 5C. Making my changes. And F3 again. Finds C0 down here at the bottom or near the bottom of the page. And I could just make it 5C. So I changed the C0 to a 5C 3 times. Now, just to make sure that we've done that correctly, we need to go up and run another checksum. So we're going to go to Tools again and generate a checksum. Choose the Generate button, and you'll notice that the checksum value for 16 is the value we first had, B8CB. Check that against what I wrote down on my paper, and it's correct. So what we've done here is we've modified the band split from 450 to 470. It was 450 to 470. We've now gone to 440 to 480, and we've made the software correct again with its checksum. We can now close this software, and we're ready to save the changes. Yes. It says, would you like to make a backup of SM-50? You can do this if you prefer. We already made a backup. It'll rename the original file SM50.bak. It's all right to do that, and it does so. Now we're back to our folder where the software is. I'm going to go ahead and double click the SM-50. It asks me if I want to continue in MS-DOS mode, and I do. And so the software is going to boot up. This looks probably familiar to those of you who have used Motorola software before. And I'm going to press any key to continue. First thing I want to do naturally is to power up my radio, hook up the programming interface to the computer, and I want to go ahead and read or get the code plug and read it into the software. We'll do that here in just a moment. Okay, I've powered up my radio, and I have the interface connected to my computer and also to the radio into the mic jack in the front of the radio. The radio is turned on. I'm now returning to the software, where I'm going to get the code plug by pressing F3 and then read the data from the radio, F2. And it reads into the program. All right, F10 to exit this portion of the menu. Now I'm going to change or view the code plug data, F4, and I want to look at the mode configuration, which is F5. 5. You'll notice that the radio has had some 464 megahertz values put in. This is where I should be able to put in an out-of-band frequency of maybe receive 444.150, and as I hit enter, the software takes that because it now has a different band split, and the transmit on this will be 449.150. All right, so you can put your 440 FM frequencies into this radio. That's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helpful for you. You know, this particular radio, the SM-50, is only a 2-channel radio, so it may not be the greatest radio to put into ham service, but I picked it up at a ham fest for $10. So if you already have some of the other items that we've mentioned here, or you can find them on the internet fairly cheaply, it might be worth your while to investigate some of these commercial radios that are coming on to the market, especially after the narrow banding. This happened to be an old school bus radio. It's wideband only, so it wouldn't meet the narrow band requirements. And it was just just laying on a table at a ham fest for $10. So you can modify a radio fairly easily with the software that I've shown you, and put this radio into service. Happy radio programming.